is up, Juicekeys? Oh, I'm so stoked for this video. First off, we got an R3. This thing rocks some serious sockage, but I'm actually more pumped for this whole rebrand of this channel I'm doing right here. So, went home for the holidays. Long story short, I won't digress. My brother was there. He runs an overland channel called Embark with Mark. Links will be in the description below. Anyways, I did the collab and I got a new intro. Other than that, along with that new channel and being Q1 of 2022, I decided to rename the channel from A Power of Drew just to my name, Andrew Cutter. I've been wanting to do it for a second now. And so, what do we gotta do? Oh, we got an intro to roll. Let's do it. Blah! Hope you guys enjoyed that intro. Honestly, it was a lot of fun to make, and my intro needed a makeover. But on to more pressing matters. The Canon R3. Now, kicking this video off, we're gonna go over the body, we're gonna go over specs and features, my thoughts, just kind of, you know, everything about this camera. However, if you're not subscribed to this channel, definitely do, because I'm doing a whole R3 series. We're gonna be competing this thing up against the C70, an R5, a Red. Heck, I'm even gonna do an iPhone 13 Pro. So we just got a lot of fun to be had with this R3. Now, that said, let's tackle the body of this thing. Now, looking at the body, it's definitely smaller than a 1DX, and you notice it as soon as you hold it. Yeah, it's just smaller and lighter. Now, also what's different is the fact that the buttons are not one-to-one from a 1DX as well, and that's why this thing shouldn't be classified as a flagship. It's not Canon's flagship camera. For instance, looking at the top of this camera, on a 1DX, you have buttons for ISO and white balance. You have designated buttons for that. Here, it's definitely less, and it's mirrored from the R5, except you have a drive AF, and you have a metering button. From the side here, I/O is essentially the same, except for you have an Ethernet port here. And they switched out a few of these, I don't know, rubber covers, which, by the way, I like. Some people were knocking the R5 for them. I like them because they get out of the way better than like the A7S3. But they switched out for a hinge here, which I don't like as much. I wish it was on this little swivel. Like the R5, all of these are swivels. Now, on the side here, the battery compartment, it's the same battery as a 1DX. So, those are interchangeable. Onto the other side. Now, this was kind of a letdown for me. I was hoping that we were going to get a memory card door cover the same style as a 1DX, which opens from the back of the camera here. It's pretty slick, tell you the truth. This is actually the same memory card door cover from the R5. So, I mean, yeah, it's nice. This thing opens up and you're opening up to a CF Express and an SD card slot. I do like that pairing. If you're out in the field, it's a lot less likely that someone's gonna have a CF Express versus an SD card. So those are a lot more common. Now, from the back of the camera, there's a lot going on here. Some of it has been taken from the R5, and then some of it's a huge upgrade, right? Like the smart toggle here. This thing's really nice. It's like half touchpad, half toggle. All the buttons are nice and clicky. You got a big, nice round dial here. And finally, the last buttons here that are definitely an upgrade from the R5 is the light up buttons underneath the LCD. For instance, this playback button. Fantastic. I love those buttons. The switch for the power on and off is nice. And then they brought back the movie and the photo toggle. I kind of got used to hitting the mode and info button to switch between movie and photo, but the toggle's nice. It's definitely better to have this analog switch than having to go through these like button commands and stuff. Another thing too, this is getting the same stabilization as the R5. They're rating it for 8 stops. Now, when I did my light testing a little bit, I didn't see as much wobble as the R5 has, but that'll be for subsequent videos to really see just how well the stabilization is now reacting with this sensor movement, right? So we'll see. That's to be seen. Like I said, it's not as robust as a 1DX. You can definitely feel it, right? It's just not, and maybe it has to do with the weight too. You know, as soon as I got the camera, I immediately understood why they weren't charging $6,500 for this and why the 1DX is asking $6,500, even though that's a DSLR that's a year old, and you can make the argument that this is a more capable and powerful camera. It's good. Good job, Canon. Now, on to the specs and features of this camera. So you're getting 6K. All the 4K in this camera is all upscaled from the 6K. There's no 4K fine or like a lower grade 4K like the R5, right? You're getting upscaled 4K all the way around, full use of that sensor. And then the 6K RAW is, it's really, really nice. They also threw in RAW light. That's nice too, which if you don't know about RAW light, it's just less taxing RAW, I guess. And yeah, that's basically the film modes that you have with this camera. Now, when it comes to photo, 30 FPS for that burst, and it is really, really fast. Here, listen to this. That's the burst rate. Crazy. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy fast. And finally, you're getting a 24 megapixel stacked BSI backside illuminated sensor, and it is great. DxOMark ranked this the best low light camera of 2021 to come out. I took this out for a little bit, and it's definitely a low light monster. I don't have anything really bad to say about this camera. You know what? I actually do. I do have some negatives about this camera that we'll talk about at the end. Yeah, and the last feature, I really can't show it to you here. That's the famous eye control that they're touting. Now, I don't want to say it's gimmicky, right? But it definitely needs to go through a few firmware updates to polish it off. But it is neat, right? You look through the eye cup, it tracks your eye. Setting them up is a breeze. It takes, I think I clocked it at like 30, 45 seconds. It's really fast, right? You're following a dot around, you're hitting the function button whenever you got it, and it dials it in. You can have up to 9 or 10 saved calibrations, and you're supposed to kind of go through a couple of them, right? Like in a dark setting or a light setting or outside or indoors. And yeah, so I don't know if I would be really using it that much. I could see at a concert maybe, where, you know, there's a lot of action happening and you're just trying to hit that spot. And so yeah, that's basically what you're getting for the specs and features. I mean, there's no record limit, which is fantastic. First Canon mirrorless camera not to have one. And you're getting the C-Log 3, you're not getting C-Log 1, which I imagine they left out so they could like beef up a firmware update in the future here. And will we see C-Log 2? I don't know, but this camera with C-Log 2 would just really polish it off. I mean, historically, Canon has reserved C-Log 2 for only their cinema cameras, right? So for this thing to get it would be a really, really big ask from Canon, and it would be a big solid that they would be giving us if they did give us their C-Log 2 and a firmware update. Yeah, so, man, so, yeah, so to round it up, my thoughts about this camera. Man, as the title suggests, I think it's the most viable mirrorless camera that Canon has produced so far, especially in the video department. I know we have that rumored Canon R5C around the corner, which that might take the cake. However, this with a 24 megapixel sensor I think will outshine the Canon R5C, but we'll see what happens. I'll probably eat my own words. Another thing too, the white balancing is, it's a nightmare. They gave us setting custom white balancing in live view mode and photo, but they still haven't given it us in video, which come on, Canon. Let me set custom white balance in video, you know? Like, I mean, let me walk this back. You can set custom white balance in video, but you have to go to settings and take a photo, and it's just, it's a headache. It's actually a headache. I don't like doing it. But yeah, and then the only other thing I think I would ask them to do, maybe, okay, I got two things. I got two other things I'd ask for them to include in this camera. One, XF AVC, that would be a great codec for this camera, make it a little bit lighter in editing. Now, compared to the R5 on my machine, which I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro, it did edit more smoothly than the R5, for sure. Maybe it's because it's upscaling from a 6K sensor versus an 8K sensor. It doesn't have all those megapixels to push around, but it definitely edited more smoothly. But XF AVC would be a nice addition. And shutter angle, man. Give me shutter angle in this camera and boom, you have an excellent B cam to a C70 or your other cinema cameras. I mean, a lot of people will be using this as a B cam to their cinema cameras, and a lot of people that are shooting photos gonna have probably the best sports photography camera that Canon has released, on par or if not better than the 1DX Mark III. However, if you're a 1DX Mark III shooter and you're looking at this as a replacement for your 1DX Mark III or a Mark II, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't think you'll like the body as much. It is a smaller body. It doesn't feel as sturdy or as robust as a 1DX. I mean, it's solid. It can take a beating. It just doesn't feel like tank-like the 1DX. And like I said in the beginning of this video, make sure to subscribe because there's gonna be a whole R3 series that I'm doing about this thing. We're gonna be comparing it, like I said, to a C70, an R5, a Red, iPhone 13 Pro, whatever I can throw at it, I'm going to throw at this camera. So, yeah, subscribe. And as always, know that you're loved and appreciated. If you haven't heard it today, let me be the first one to tell you, you are loved and appreciated. And with that, guys, my deep dive into the R3 is done. Hope you guys have a good one. Later, Drewskis.